And we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports Live. We have with us tonight another special guest all the way from Sheffield, the Commonwealth champion, the middleweight Commonwealth champion, Sam Sheedy. Sam, Speedy Sheedy, are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
How are you doing, Sam?
I'm doing very well. I'm just staring out of my window. On back of my housing group, we've got like this big factory. It's the old Stanley Tools.
Okay.
And what they do sometimes is they sometimes have like zombie nights. And if you look at back at night time, you can see like green night vision goggles. And you can see people diving across the roofs and that, shooting each other's vests and stuff. So I was just wondering what they were up to tonight. So I just heard somebody screaming. In fact, you know what? I probably should ring police. I just heard somebody scream. So it's probably somebody getting done in. Might not be know what to do on them zombie nights. It might just be actually somebody just being assaulted.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you anyway?
No, it's a zombie. No, it's a zombie night. I can see him. It's a zombie night. What? Sorry, I'm fine. I've trained tonight. I've done strength and conditioning. I've done a run this morning, strength and conditioning this afternoon. I'm having this chat with you, and then after this, I'm gonna have my only red meat dish of the week. I'm gonna have steak tonight, Ingram. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
You're flying. So, for those people who don't know who you are, introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Sam Sheedy, also known as Speedy Sam Sheedy, the current Commonwealth middleweight champion, former Central Area champion, future world champion.
Well, there's confidence for you. So let's talk about this Commonwealth fight. Obviously, we watched you live fighting, winning the title. In reflection of that fight on that night, do you feel you could have done better that night, or do you think that was the best you could have given that night?
No, not whatsoever. I think Rashid were a very unknown quantity, and I don't care what anybody says. Unless you get in with that man, he's a bag of tricks. He weren't doing anything whatsoever. Then he'd come out with some. His timing was very good. He had very good timing. I'd give myself a lot of stick after that fight. A few people approached me, don't know what about boxing. Look, you change your game plan a few times, which you should have stuck to. Glynn told me to box and move. I totally ignored him, which I do a lot, which I shouldn't do. I'm really starting to try and listen. Eventually, before my career's over, I will listen to Glynn. But I am trying my hardest. He did say box and move. And I started to try and take him out in first round, seeing as he was a vast amount lighter than me on the scales. And I thought, I can whoop this guy. He's not boxed anybody, blah, blah, blah. It turns out he had a ridiculously hard head. I could not, but I didn't even wobble him. I hit him so hard and clean. I just did not wobble him at all. And I changed my game plan again. And then finally, last 3 rounds, I boxed and moved, which I should have done earlier. And I might have found the opening to eventually stop him or dishearten him. But instead, I did what he wanted me to do. He wanted to have like a tear. He wanted to get inside and have a war. And I let him do that. Whereas I shouldn't have done that. I should have just stuck my game plan. I could have boxed a hell of a lot better if I'd have listened to Glynn earlier on, but I didn't do. So to answer that question, I could have boxed a hell of a lot better. But every step's a learning step. And I won the Commonwealth title that night. So it's not all that bad.
It isn't all that bad. Now, let's remember the weigh-in. He was he not under the middleweight limit? And then when he came in on the night, he was way over, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, ridiculous. He weighed in over 12 and a bit of stone on the night.
Yeah.
And I think on the weigh-in, I think he was like, 10 stone 12 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
I was flabbergasted, and then he weighed in up over 12 stone on the night. A little trick, didn't he, Ingram? A little trickle.
Hey, listen, and it almost paid off for him in one round. Which round? I think it was round 8 or round 9.
We all know what round it were, Ingram. Round 8, he nearly smoked my boots, didn't it?
That was a good shot. Dropped you.
I did not know where I were. I was at panic stations. I was like just trying to. I was trying to grab fresh air, just trying to grab anything to keep me up.
But
you know what, Ingram? I'm not ashamed to say. We're boxers. We get hit in face, it hurts. We get rocked. We hit in body, it wins us. We all get hit. We all get hurt. People say I've never been hurt. They're talking, blah blah.
Yeah, but you hear that a lot. You hear things even for Golovkin. People say, well, Golovkin's never been hit. He's never been hurt. And he's never been down amateur or pro. People say that sort of stuff, but you can be sure.
Well, I've never been down, but I've still been hurt.
Of course. We all get hurt.
amateur professional. I've had 70 odd fights now. I've been hurt a lot.
We've all been hurt.
Tommy Frank hurt me in the gym last night. He did hit me on the end of the nose. I thought, you bleeder.
So, I mean, apart from that, I mean, you know, Dennis Hobson had a lot to say about your performance. Glenn McCrory was almost scathing in his review of your fight. What do you take about scathing in his report about, you know, saying, well, you know,
what's that?
In other words, he's quite savage in what he was saying about, you know, your performance was under par. He said, you know, and if you're gonna be in this division, you know, with that belt, and you want to move forward, you're gonna have to do a lot better than that. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think he needs to dust his gum shield off and his gloves off, doesn't he? He needs to step up. If he's not mincing his words like that, how's about he gets his gum shield out and we have a bit of a knock on back garden? I'm just kidding, Glenn. Still looking shit. I'm only kidding, Glenn. I'm kidding, pal. Listen, I'm open to criticism. I really am. I know I was under par that night.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. I know. I accept that. I'm not upset if anybody thinks that. If anybody says anything about me, I could not care less. I really will take it on board. I'll take note of that. But I know what I need to do, and I'm ticking the right boxes now for what I need to do to move forward. So I've got the bases covered of what happened on the night, the negatives.
Right.
Well, let's look at the positives. I got rocked in the 8th round, and I managed to survive another 4 rounds.
Absolutely.
And win the fight.
Absolutely. Well, you're Commonwealth champion. You've got off the deck. You've won a fight. You know, in those senses, that's very good. Now, what I'm interested in now, one of the things I remember Dennis Hobson saying in an interview for me, he was saying that he kind of felt that you were kind of comfortable where you were in Sheffield, and maybe felt you needed a bit more a change of scenery, possibly different sparring partners and stuff like that. Has that been something that you've considered in this training camp, or have you felt that it's?
No, not whatsoever. I don't think I'm comfortable and like I'm too comfortable, anything like that whatsoever. I just think I need to listen to Glenn. I literally don't listen to anybody. And I'm not acting cool like that and saying, oh, I'm so cool, I don't listen to anybody. I don't think it's a good, it's a positive trait. I don't listen to anybody. I think what I think is right, I need to understand what people are saying. Me and Glenn have got a really good relationship. But at the same time, sometimes we need to break down communication barriers, and we are doing that. We're sitting down, we're speaking to each other more, rather than just expecting each other to know what each other means. Me and Glenn now communicate better than we ever have, so I listen to what he says now because I understand that at the end of the day, he's trained the likes of Prince Nazim's, Bomber Graham, he's seen Clinton Woods, your Paul Silky Jones, people like, he knows how it works. He knows how it works at the top level. So I just need to just listen to him. Stop trying to understand everything. Just listen. Just accept it. And at least then, if it goes wrong, I can blame him, can't I?
Well, yeah, I guess so. But if you're not listening to him, what's the point of having him in your corner?
Exactly. We've talked about this. So I 100% listen to every word Glenn says. Listen to what he says. And just do it. Just do it now, right? Because I'm 29 years old, me and Grim. I've been boxing for 18 years. I don't want to be fighting forever, you know. I don't want to be fighting forever. So I need to be listening to him now. Move on as fast as we can. Earn some money. Get some big titles. And then move forward in my career and see what's next.
Okay, so now you are Commonwealth champion. We've acknowledged that. We've moved on from all what's happened before to get to the title. Now you are the champion. What difference has it made for you in training? Because people say, oh, when you become a champion, you become a different man. You add more to your game. You train harder. You're more hungrier. What's happened for Sam Sheedy?
Well, I've always thought I was a man. Even when I weren't the man, I thought I was a man. So nothing apart from I'm champion. I'm the same as that 11-year-old kid in that gym trying to take my head off sparring. I'm the same as that 40-year-old retired professional boxer. I'm the same. I'm no different to them. I'm the exact same. It don't make me better than anybody. I'm the exactly same. But the difference is now I'm Commonwealth champion. I've got to protect this belt and then move on. So the difference is now somebody's going to want to become Commonwealth champion. So I've got to stop them from doing that. Liam Cameron. I've got to stop him from doing that. Sorry, wait 1 second, Paul. I just one second. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, buddy. I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I've got to stop Liam Cameron from winning this title now. That's the difference. So I'm training just as hard as I always have done. My last 2 fights, you saw how fit I were. I've done 2 12-round fights, and I was fine. So I know how to get fit. The difference is now I'm working on sticking to a game plan. I'm working on listening. I'm working on staying concentrated. Nothing else has changed. You're champion or you're not. You're still the same person.
You talked about me in your last interview about working on the jab, and we're going to see a better jab. Did you think you used that jab effectively enough in that last fight?
No, no, I didn't. No, I didn't, and I should have done. Because when I did, it works. I should have used the jab a hell of a lot more, but I just didn't. And things, do you know me, Ingram? I'm like a slow cooker. Do you like a slow cooker? If you put chips in microwave, then like micro chips, they taste alright. Or if you put like noodles in they taste alright. But if you put something in slow cooker like chicken or just some sort of meat, it tastes amazing, doesn't it?
It does.
I'm like me. It takes a long time for things to sink in. When they sunk in, I do it better than anybody else. I'm not forgetting. From a slow cooker.
From a trainer's perspective, would you just say you're just damn hard-headed?
I'm a pain in the arse. I'm not like that. Everybody will say I am a nightmare. But I've got to do something right. I'm 25. I'm 180.
Absolutely.
Possibly, a lot of people would argue about the other 2 decisions.
Yes.
So I'm not doing too bad,
Okay. Well, one of those actual debatable losses, Nav Mansouri fought the other night on at the Ponds Forge. And I asked him the question. I said to him, would you be interested in fighting Sam Sheedy again for the Commonwealth title? And he went, no, me and Sam are good mates and everything, but he's in a different division to me now, and I just need to get myself right. That's what Nav Mansouri had to say about things.
Exactly. Do you know what? We're running on different paths now. No disrespect to him whatsoever. He's just getting his career going again, and in effect, I'm flying. I'm on my way to defending this title. Once I've defended this title, I want a European title fight. Nav needs a couple more fights to get going again, and I thought it looked tremendous in his last fight. Apart from the knockdown, I thought it looked great. I thought it looked very slick. I thought it looked sharp. I thought it looked strong. I thought it looked brilliant, to be honest with you, at times. And like I said, he's at a completely different level in his career now. He's got like a year to rebuild. Where I'm not in a rebuilding stage. I'm flying a minute, So there shouldn't be any crossing paths from me and Nav. And like I said, we're good friends. We're in completely different weight divisions as well as that.
Fantastic. So now we're talking about this big fight against yourself and Liam Cameron. One of the sticking points, or one of the points that I keep hearing over and over and over again, it's not like a broken record. What weight is Liam Cameron going to get coming at? What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know. I've heard it all before. Liam's lazy. He's lazy. He's lazy. He looks doughy in his fights. He don't put that much effort in training. And you might listen to his going, you'll see on night, blah, blah, blah. But he's lazy. I've heard from a lot of resources, all his trainers, he's lazy. And you know what? Leopard rarely changes his spots. So the reason he went to super middleweight is because he was a bit lazy. He couldn't do middleweight. And what he's got now, he's got a dietitian or a nutritionist, which is great. You can listen to them for a bit, but you know what? It's lifestyle. This isn't like a one-fight thing getting your diet right. It's lifestyle. And if you're struggling, and the fight's been postponed once, so he might have got his weight down in first place, and then his head's gone, and he'll have started eating loads of crap, and he'll be doing late-night runs. He'll be getting in from the gym. He'll be like, my weight's bang on. He'll be having like a big burger. And next morning, instead of doing what I should be doing, where he might be doing sprints, might be doing pads, he'll have to go and do a long run. And that's going to take energy out of him, so he's not going to be able to train properly. So his weight's been down. That's because he's lazy and he's not that disciplined. And that shows in his fights. He's lost 5 times now at a high level, and he's not performed. And that's through lack of discipline, through not doing his food right, or his head's gone, or whatever. He's a bit mentally unstable, Liam, and that's why I'm going to beat him, because I'm a lot more. I might sound very unstable, but I am a lot more stable than Liam.
So you're suggesting that this opponent in Liam Cameron is not the full package in terms of his mental capacity to hold it together, to be disciplined, and to be on the night ready to fight and to face you for the Commonwealth title?
Not a chance. Especially me. I'm like a box of frogs. Me. He'll not know what to expect. Especially in the build up to the fight. His head's going to be all over the place. Like I said, I don't think he trains that hard, to be honest with you, and that's not going to change. You're either lazy or you're not. And I think he's lazy. He's also weight's going to be an issue, so he's going to be messing about with his food trying to get to this weight. They reckon he's just over 12 stone. It might be, but I seen him at the interview place the other day and he looked frail. If he's over 12 stone now, he looks frail. He's still got another 8 pounds to go. Man, he's going to be like a skeleton, and when I hit him, he's just going to snap. I ruptured somebody's spleen once a few years ago, and that's the same thing for what I'm going to do to Liam. I hit him with a straight left hand to the stomach. I'm just going to rupture his spleen. Rib cage is just going to blow apart. He's just going to fall over. This isn't the right weight for him, especially if he's doing it wrong.
So if it's not the right weight for him, and you're saying that this is going to be such a why are you taking this fight? Do you feel that this is a decent fight for yourself?
I'm not taking this fight. This fight's been put. Liam's got himself into a mandatory position. So Liam's a mandatory contender. So that's why I've got to fight Liam.
Ah, it's one of them ones.
Yeah, I've got to fight. Listen, I'm not taking away from his ability. Liam is an ABA champion, former ABA champion. He's a very, very, very good fighter. But you know what, Ingram? I think I've said this before. You've got to have 5 things. I still haven't figured out what they're all called. Right, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to have work. You've got to have work ethic. You've got to be mentally strong. You've got to have talent. And then there's another one. The next time I talk to you about this, I'll call these 5 things different things.
Would you call it character?
So he's a good fighter. You can't just be a good fighter. There's loads of good fighters, you know. There's loads of good fighters out there that don't even win 3 fights in a row, win central area titles. Liam is a very good fighter. If he can get himself together and he does the weight bang on and he keeps mentally strong, he'll do the cause. It's going to be a really good fight. But I can't see him doing that. I can't see him being all together, weight being right, head being right, everything like that. And he's put that much pressure on himself. He said if he loses this fight, he's never fighting again, which is a ridiculous thing to do. Already that shows me that he's already admitting defeat. If I lose, I've never even said if I lose. I'm not even going to say the words. If you said the words, you mean you're putting it on paper in your head. You're putting it on that little mental notepad in your head, and it's there. So you can look at, you can turn page and go, oh look, I've said if I lose. I didn't put that in my head ever.
So what's your relationship with Liam Cameron?
I like him. I like him. We've always got along. He's a good guy. He's a good lad. He's a good guy. I like Liam Cameron.
But business is business.
Oh, business is business, baby. That's all it is. He's in my way. He's got to go. And I'm going to move on to bigger and better things. There's a fighter out. There's a few fighters out there that I'm interested in, but I'm not looking past Liam at the minute.
Let's talk about you know, it's a rivalry between yourself and Liam for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
It's a Sheffield rivalry.
So where will the fight take place?
Ponds Forge Arena, Sheffield.
Very nice. Very
Friday
nice.
the 13th of October.
Ooh, very nice. So with this fight coming up, what do you feel you're going to need to do to beat Cameron, who people are also talking about his weight, him being physically bigger and stronger than you on the night?
Listen, there's a lot of people bigger than me, Ingram, but I'm a strong man, me. I'm a very strong man. There's not many people stronger than me. Even at my weight above, I'm a strong kid. He might be bigger than me, but he's not going to be stronger than me. He's taller than me, but so is a lot of people. But that don't mean he's stronger than me.
So you're not worried about him be able to bulldoze you over or bully you in the ring?
No way. It don't matter. He could. Listen, at the end of the day, we're both weighing at 11 stone 6. That's a fact. So people go, he's massive. Guess what? He's 11 stone 6. People go, he's small for weight. Guess what? He's still 11 stone 6. That is the weight limit. And they go, oh, I can put this much weight on. Yeah, but you can't put that much muscle on. You're going to be what you're going to be. Simple as that. Like I said, Tommy Frankie me knows last night, he's 8.5 stone. So it don't matter how big you are. If you get hit in the face, it hurts. If you get hit in the right place in body, it hurts. Weight is not really that much, especially if we get weighing at the same weight. There's not going to be that much in it, you know. Cause I carry a lot of muscle. Like I'm in very good shape when I box, as you've seen before.
Yeah.
So there's no really other place I could go with my strength sort of thing. I'm as strong as I can be. I'm as strong as any middleweight out there when I'm in shape.
Okay, let's talk about another middleweight, the WBO middleweight champion of the world, who is good friends with BWTM Sports, Billy Joe Saunders. What was it like working with him?
Joe.
Yes.
Brilliant. Lovely, lovely boy. I absolutely loved working with Billy Joe. Like I said, when I sparred with Billy Joe, I was just coming off the street. Really, I've not trained for 8 weeks. This is genuine.
Right.
He was on a spar with him. Yeah, why? Yeah, he goes, are you sure you've not done anything? I went, yeah, it don't matter there, it don't matter. And then I got him with him, and it was just a different story. Also, he was absolutely amazing. He just ran rings around me. It was unbelievable. I was in awe of how good he were. The second spar with him were a little bit different, a little bit more competitive. But bear in mind, this is the first and second time I've trained in 10 weeks. You know what I mean? I've done nothing. And
yeah.
I could lie to you and tell you that this happened, that happened. I'm just telling you, it was different gravy to me completely. If it were all the way around, I'd tell you that. If I smoked his books, I'd tell you. Don't worry about that. But I'm telling you now, it was different gravy to me. But it was lovely as well. Lovely kid. Seen him out at the gym a few times. We stopped, shook hands, had a little chat and that, and moved on. He's a great guy. Very talented as well. Super talented.
So when you look at levels, and people say, oh, well, that's levels, isn't it? You're a Commonwealth champion. He's a WBO champion.
Yeah,
but do you...
Listen, as well, if I were fit, it'd be a lot more competitive than it were.
Of course.
Like I said, I've not done anything for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
3 months I've not done anything for Ingram. 3 full, nothing. I've not even been in a boxing ring. I swear I got my gear went down. I got in it and I'd not been living right at all. So it inevitable happened. But if I were fit, it'd be a completely different story. And he might say, would it kid, but same. But I'm telling you now, it would have been. Of course it would have been.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've got any brains, you know it's going to be a different story.
Absolutely.
I should have gone, but I went because I've now sparred with Billy Joe Saunders, and I'm proud of that. Proud to have that on my resume.
Of course, but but it doesn't give you a proper assessment as to what you could have done. You've always been thinking to yourself, well, I could have that spar been really sharp, sparring Billy Joe Saunders. What would I have been like? You could gauge yourself a lot better there.
You're right, but I couldn't have because the opportunity came when I was not fit whatsoever. So I couldn't have said to him, any chance we can spar in 4 weeks when I'm a bit sharper? He'd go, well, no, because I'm busy then. You know what I mean? So I had to take the opportunity when I could.
Yeah.
I got inspired with Billy Joe. I enjoyed it. I met a new friend and I got paid.
He's in Sheffield now. He's basing himself in Sheffield now, isn't he? Over at the Ingle Gym.
Yeah. He seems to be doing fantastic as well. I've seen a few pictures of him on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it looks fantastic, Nick. I'm glad I'm not sparring with him now. A lot stronger than
what did you, even though you were out of shape, what did you learn like from Billy Joe Saunders?
I learned, I don't know, you know. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really learn much other than thinking, I can't wait till this is over. I don't know what I learned. I learned to always stay in the gym. Always make sure you're fit. Don't ever let yourself become unfit because this is what happens.
That's true. So, which leaves another question for you to ask. 10 weeks out. I mean, what were you doing in those 10 weeks, Commonwealth champion?
Oh, you don't want to know. You know, you don't want to know.
I've heard stories, but I don't know how true they are.
What? Commonwealth champion like thing.
I've heard stories. I've heard stories, but I don't know how true they are.
But you know what? I said, we live and learn. I'm 29 years old. I've learned from it. I've been in the gym now a good 8 weeks, and I'm in a completely different shape now. I'm like a demon. I'm like a lion, a flying lion with wings. That's what I'm like again, Ingram. I mean, I'm formidable.
I'm glad to hear it.
Means, but I'm strong.
I'm glad to hear it. So between now and obviously the fight night, what do you do now? Are you going to get more sparring partners in, or when do you tailor off and stop?
Oh.
Yeah.
So nowhere near taper off yet. I've got another 5 hard weeks of training. I've got sprints in the morning, which I absolutely dread. They turn. I'll tell you what, whatever you're pretending to be, whatever mask you've got on, whoever you might think you are, whoever you might have thought you were for a while, do these sprints, Ingram, and the real you will come out. I was swearing at my 72-year-old trainer up there. I told him to F off. I was so ashamed of myself. I thought, why have I done that? I just couldn't care how old he was shouting at me. I was like, oh, F off. I think, oh, so sorry, Les. You know?
Yeah.
It's just, they take you to depths you've never been before. So what Liam will be doing, these little plods or jogging up these daft hills. Listen, these sprints, even if he's doing this, it's irrelevant. But these sprints and stuff like this, these are what make champions. That's what they do. They find out who you really are, and these are what make champions, these sprints.
Let's talk about the middleweight division itself. Obviously, Billy Joe Saunders, WBO champion. Eubank has now moved out of the division. You know, there's a gentleman by the name of Spike O'Sullivan who's fighting Gabe Rosado in America shortly. What are your thoughts on that fight, first and foremost?
Of Spike O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Spike, I've not seen much of him. I've seen him, but I saw him against Billy Joe, and I saw a bit of him against Chris Eubanks Jr.
Okay.
It looks very tough. It looks like a hard man. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
I'd love to get him with. I want to get him with best Ingram, mate. And that Rosado, is that what his name, Rosado?
Yes, Gabe Rosado.
Yeah, he looks like a tough customer. I've not seen much of him either, but he looks tough, doesn't he?
Okay. What about guys like Martin Murray?
Ingram, I'll get him with any of them. Whoever wants it can have it. Simple as that. I'm Commonwealth champion. If they want to make me an offer and fight me to defend it against them, I'll fight them. If they've got a title that they want to defend against me, I'll fight them. If they high up in rankings and I can get paid, I'll fight them. Simple as that. I ain't got no qualms. I don't dislike anybody, me. I don't dislike anybody. I don't even dislike Liam. He's having it, but I don't dislike him. So when people go, oh, do you want to fight? I don't know. I'm not that bothered. I'll fight anybody. I'll fight anybody.
Okay. Who's number 2? Who's after Liam Cameron in your ranks in the Commonwealth? Do you know?
No idea. No idea. I don't know.
Who's the European champion?
Who's what?
Who's the European champion?
I think it is an Italian.
Okay.
I think it's an Italian. I don't. You know what? I'm no good with this sort like my knowledge on my trivia on boxing. I'm not really that good with it, to be honest with you. You're better off asking Dennis about this.
Right.
And Glenn. I'm just here to train and fight.
Okay, that's fair play. It's been honest. Been absolutely honest. So what else has been going on in life for Sam Sheedy?
Just training hard. Just training really hard. Like I like to get in the gym when I like to hit it hard, Bingham. I like to start at the ground, work my way up. I love to go through the stages of feeling fitter and fitter and fitter.
Right.
And in a minute, I'm not far off past. I'm near the top. I'm nearly there.
Okay, I know that you were on our Twitter page today, and you were liking a tweet between 2 rivals at the lower weight division, Tommy Chadburn and Tommy Frank. What are your thoughts about all of this?
I think it's a great fight. Reason being, Tommy's had 3-4 fights. So I've heard a few things. I've heard that Tommy don't need Tommy Chadburn. I've heard not in the same league and all this and all that. I firmly agree. Tommy Frank is leaps and bounds above Tommy Chadburn. No disrespect to Chadburn. I like him. And I'm friends with him. I'm friends with both. But from my knowledge, from what I've seen, Tommy Frank is leaps and bounds above Tommy Chadburn. As simple as that. I can't sugarcoat it any other way than that. That's just the truth. But he's had 4 fights, so I think great. Have the fight, make some money, put a big night on in Sheffield. Tommy Frank can showcase his abilities against Tommy Chadburn. Look fantastic, and then put his mouth to rest, and that's it. And then it done and dusted. I think he should fight him. Tommy
Chadburn was saying that, well, the reason why the fight isn't happening is because Tommy Frank wouldn't come up by 3 pounds. That's what the sticking point is.
When you've got nothing on you, I know I said weights don't mean nothing, but if me and you weigh bang on 11 stone, solid muscle,
right? We're
both in fantastic physical condition,
right?
And you're 3 pound heavier than me. Think about it like that. You know what I mean? It's 3 pound makes a massive. 3 pounds of muscle or 3 pounds of something else. It makes a lot of difference. There was weight classes for a reason. Otherwise they don't both be the same weight, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
There's a reason there's different weight classes. Simple as that. I don't know all ins and outs of it. I don't know all politics of it. But I think you should fight him just because it'd make for a great night. It'd make for a fantastic night. I think it'd be brilliant. I think it'd sell a lot of tickets, and you can both get paid.
Well, there's a lot of talk. Well, Chadburn said a lot about Tommy and Tommy Frank, and you know, I know Tommy doesn't really want to talk about Chadburn. He doesn't even talk about him. So, I mean, we'll have Tommy at some point on the channel, and we'll talk to Tommy as well.
Tommy Frank, I love Tommy Frank. He's very funny. He's a very funny guy. He's very dry. He's very dry. But when he does start talking about him, or if he does, expect fireworks from both sides. But Tommy Frank will go. He'll go in. I can't wait till he goes. He'll go in on him. It'll be exciting to watch. So,
what's the score between both guys? Are they friends, or is there a bit of banter, a bit of needles? Is something really there?
So, I think it's Tommy Chadburn just brought it up and said, "Let's fight." All this and all that. I think Tommy were offended. I think he were offended the fact that Tommy Chadburn even thought he couldn't fight him. I think you're actually offended by it, to be honest with you. That's what impression I got.
Seemed to start at the weigh-in. The weigh-in that you were weighing in for your fight, and I think I did an interview with Tommy Frank, and he made a couple of comments about Tommy Chadburn, said that they really weren't in the same league, which is, you know, as he's entitled to his opinion. So I guess that's where it started. I don't know if that was tongue. Was it tongue in cheek, or do you think it was meant seriously?
About what? He's saying, 100% meant they were in the same league as him. 100%. He gets mad when I talk about it. He gets mad. He goes, Sam, why are you even saying this? Do you really think he can get in the ring with me? I'm like, well, he can get in, can't he? That's how he does when he gets in.
But don't you think if this isn't settled, it's going to end up being a monkey on Tommy Frank's back, even though he feels his leagues above Chadburn?
Oh, he needs to box him. He needs to box him. They need to fight. They need to sort it out.
So it needs to happen.
Yeah, of course it does. Why not?
So you'll be a referee in the middle of it then?
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm the chuck fuel on it. Have a chat. He's laughing, babe.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Just coming around, she's just saying, "Who's that?" Like Ingram, he's just laughing at my face.
Oh dear. Well, it should be fun either way. It seems like a fan-friendly fight if it happens. I mean,
listen, you know what, Ingram?
Yeah.
It's all fun and games, isn't it?
It is.
Listen, it's not too serious ever. You know what? It's fun and games. We're all in fighting game. Let's have a bit of banter. Let's have a bit of humour. Let's slag each other off, and let's have a good laughter. You know, it's as simple as that, isn't it?
I guess so. I'm the middleman. All I'm doing is asking questions to each fighter, and unfortunately,
you're the spoon. You've got the spoon in the pot, and you give it people, and you chuck stuff in it. And go, yeah, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I think it's funny. You're a stirrer.
I'm not stirring anything. I'm just asking questions. You know.
You know what? I'm stirring it. I'm putting it onto you.
Oh, God. But look, both guys will get paid for it, definitely, and it's a good rival fight. And if it's promoted right, I mean, it could be a seller, a big seller.
Yeah, most definitely. They both. Chadburn seriously thinks he's going to win, which I think brilliant. Good. You should always think you're going to win. I think I'd beat Golovkin if I got him with him. Nobody else will. You've got to think you're going to win. You've got to believe you're going to win.
And they're both good.
Believe you're going to win, you're going to get hurt.
Both guys are quite articulate. Both guys can express themselves quite well. So I mean, they can talk quite well. You know. Yeah. So, do you think it's just
unlike me?
No, you're the king of talking in Sheffield. So you know, you're the king of talking when it comes to Sheffield.
Yes.
Yes. Are there any other fights, local derbies that you'd like to see as well in Sheffield?
It's only really me in Sheffield, isn't it? Me and Tommy. That's it. Well, it's only me and Tommy Frank in Sheffield that's really anybody at the minute. Can't really think of anybody else.
What about a fantasy matchup between yourself and Kell Brook?
Say again?
A fantasy matchup between yourself and Brook.
You do?
No, a fantasy matchup yourself. So like Brook, I know Brook's a welterweight.
You said you fancy the matchup between me. Oh man, how brilliant would that be?
That would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'd have to do it a catch, but I think it'd be fantastic. I think it'd be brilliant. Not for him. He's probably thinking, "Oh, shut up, you idiot." Obviously, for me, it'd be fantastic.
Well, I mean, but think that you know, yourself and Brook at like, I mean, he made middleweight against Golovkin, so I mean, he brought, you know, that might be interesting
Obviously.
actually.
Well, I'm not a puncher like Golovkin.
Well, exactly.
You don't need to worry about that.
Exactly.
You don't need to worry about that. But well, I think it'd be fantastic. I think when I beat Liam Cameron, I think Kell Brook needs to rebuild his career. I could be a stepping stone in his mind. I think, you know what? The Commonwealth champion, become middleweight Commonwealth champion, and then go from there. I think Kell Brook should box Sam Sheedy once he's ready to return. And I think once I beat Liam Cameron, Sam Sheedy should box Kell Brook.
There you go.
You should bang on about it.
There you go.
Make it happening.
There's 2 fights I'd love to see you in the middleweight division. I'd like to see a fantasy matchup between yourself and Kell Brook. I'd like to see yourself against Spike O'Sullivan. That I think would be a great fight.
Yeah, both good fights. Both good fights. Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think they both sound very good. I'd rather box Kell purely because I'd get a lot more money.
Absolutely. There you go. There you go. What about Tommy Langford?
I'm not interested in Tommy Langford. If it happened, great. But I'm one of me. You know when I used to be a bricklayer? I used to be a bricklayer, me, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't know
when I
that.
was at college, if you was to ask me, you used to have to like build certain walls,
Yeah.
certain designs. And if you ever had to rebuild that wall, I just hate it. Even if I reset it up and did it again, I just hate doing the same thing. You're going over the same ground. I'm just proper not about that. I don't like doing it. I don't know why. There's some psychologists out there who'll probably be able to slag me off and tell me what sort of fault I've got in my personality.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. I don't like going over the same ground. I'm not interested. I've been there before. I've done it.
So no. So Langford, no.
If it come about, if it made sense, I would do it. But I'm not going to go and beat any drums about any rematches.
Are there any sour grapes with your loss to Langford?
I ain't got any sour grapes against anybody, me and Grim. I'm too busy. I'm building a shed and I'm building like DDO stuff on back of my garden. I ain't got time to have sour grapes. I'm trying to get Glyn to help me build a shed, so I'm a bit busy with Glyn at the minute.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. Let's talk a little bit more about AJ Hobson and Dennis Hobson and their connection with you.
Okay, brilliant.
So go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, my promoters. They're my promoters and they help promote me in fights. I think they're joint managers as well with Glyn. I think they've got some sort of joint management partnership. Right. So yeah, we're all in it together in Grim. We're all one team with the same dream. One team, same dream. One team, same dream. So that's what we are.
What about the idea of fighters being pinched by other managers and promoters? What are your thoughts on that? And what does loyalty mean to you?
Do you know what, Ingram? I'm very loyal. I am really loyal. But you know, if somebody cheats on me, or if my girlfriend cheats, I'd think, you know what? I'm gutted, but so what? You were always going to do it. You've done it. If I had a gym and somebody left, I'd go, okay, you were always going to do it at some point. I'm glad you've done it. If anybody does it, I don't hold no grudges against it because that's what they wanted to do. Right. Everybody's entitled to do what they want to do. And that's up to them. I don't really have that much focus on other people, to be honest with you, Ingram.
Right. But what about yourself personally as a fighter?
I don't judge anyway. Like, even if somebody does something catastrophic, I can always put my mind in mind and think, well, I can maybe understand why they did it. Everybody's got a reason to do everything, haven't they?
Right.
I might not agree with it, but they probably don't agree with a lot of things I've said on this phone call.
But I mean, in terms of yourself and potentially other management, I mean, I'm just talking about it in the sense that, you know, you have other promoters that may sniff around and want, you know, look at you and say, oh, he looks quite tasty. He's Commonwealth champion. Oh, he looks somebody you could pick up. How do you respond? Because you hear a lot of fighters that change camps and, you know, promoters taking from one camp to another camp.
I've been with the roads for 18 years. I'm not planning on going nowhere. This is where I've been. This is where I've been, and this is where I'll stay. So we might fall out, we might throw dummy out of pram and all this and all that. But this is where I am. This is where I'm based. Grass ain't always greener. It's the same grass wherever you go. If you've got problems, communicate. Just like in a marriage, you might have got a problem. If you sit down and speak to your missus or your husband or your trainer, then you can sort them out. And if you can't sort them out, then you move on. should always sit down, I think, and communicate before doing anything. So I think everything can be resolved.
Well, it's interesting because you hear people say in boxing, if you want loyalty, get a dog. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's people, innit? It's not boxers, it's not football players, it's not black people, it's not white people, it's not lesbians, it's not gay. It's people. People are loyal, people are idiots, people are disloyal, people are thieves, people are cheats. It's not a certain type of person or a certain type of sports person. It's just people. So when you're saying this about boxers and all this and all that, football's all but the same, rugby players all but the same. Everybody's the same. So it's just people, and I take people through they are. I'm not interested. If somebody's disloyal to somebody, great. It don't bother me, Ingram. Sorry, I'm a bit boring on this subject. I'm not bothered.
No, you are. You're saying some interesting things there because people get to know about your character a little bit more about who Sam Sheedy is. We all know you're preparing for a fight. We know you're going to say you're in the best shape of your life. We all know you're going to say you'll be bang on the weight and you're ready to take Liam Cameron's up. We know you're going to say all the things. But it's things like this that get to know a little bit more about your character, your relationship with your trainer, your promoter, your management.
Really got a view on it. I'm loyal to Glenn through that's it. I'm not going to go anywhere. If I've got any problems with Glenn, I'll have them out with him and then we'll sort it out because that's why we've got this as far as we have. If we didn't sit down and speak to each other, we'd have fell out a long time ago, parted ways. So, if we weren't friends or if we shouldn't be together, then we'd have split up a long time ago. So nothing's going to change. The way I'm boxing, the way I said I didn't perform in the last couple of fights to my greatest heights, has nothing to do with anybody else apart from me not listening to Glenn. That's it. So I'm loyal. I'm loyal to the people I need to be loyal to.
My final question to you, again, another fantasy thing. If there was ever to be a Super 8 tournament in the middleweight division, would you enter it? And if so, why? 100%.
I'd love to do that. I think that'd be right up my street. That'd be absolutely fantastic. I'd love to. I'd be honoured to be in it. In fact, I should be in it. Let's do one.
So a Super 8, you'd love to be a part of it.
Oh, 100%. I think it'd be fantastic. I'd 100% do it.
Okay. So in closing, do you have a message to the people that support you?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for supporting me. I'm going to constantly keep making you laugh as much as I can with my sombrero and me lying about being from Tijuana, even though I'm not lying, I am from Tijuana. I'm just going to keep being me. I'm going to keep being myself. I'm probably one of the most genuine people in boxing, rather than one of these. I'm in the greatest shape of my life. I'm going to make the weight. I'm going to knock him out. I'm not interested in that. I am going to be in great shape of my life. But I'm also me. I'm also Sam Sheedy. A lot of these other fighters, you just know their names. You don't know who they are. You don't know. They might think Sam Sheedy's crazy, but at least you know who I am. You know, I'm not pretending to be somebody I'm not. But anyway, yeah, just keep buying tickets, keep supporting me, and I'll keep winning.
By the way, people are going to want to know how they follow you. How do they follow you, Sam?
Follow me on Twitter at Speedy Sam Sheedy. I'm on Twitter at Speedy Sam Sheedy. That is all. Boxing Friday the 13th of October. I'm boxing Liam Cameron, defending my Commonwealth title, and then I'm boxing Kell Brook, defending my Commonwealth title. Anyway, let's get it on. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Ingram, for the chat. My steak's ready. Babe, my steak ready.
Take care, chap. All the best.
Cheers, pal. See you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. Live and exclusive on BWTM Sports, the Commonwealth, the middleweight Commonwealth champion, Sam Sheedy, live on BWTM. Thank you all for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more interviews. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, leave your comments, and of course, share the video. We'll be back later on tonight with the transfer window and an update with how Arsenal are getting on. This is Ingram Jones. We're out. Thanks for watching.